Okay, so it's official. The Revenant project at this point is a complete and utter failure. It does not shoot. All of my notes indicate that it shot bug holes with the full length barrel, which made it very, very front heavy. But I don't know if I held on to it. I don't know what I did back then. It was 20 some years ago. All I know is that now I cut about 6 inches off the barrel, and it doesn't shoot at all. I've got 21 groups here. And I did a whole thing about how I went through. Then I went down. After that, I decided, you know what? I've got 5 more loaded up. I'm going to just latch onto this thing, shoot it riding it down, and shoot 4 or 5. I mentioned it at the last video. I'm going to shoot 4 or 5 groups and see what happens. And this time I decided, forget that. I did the 2 and the 3, and you can distinctly see every bullet. And then I did 5 shot, 5 shot, 5 shot, 5 shot, and I was running out of room, so I jumped back and did another 5. But what I did is I went through about 4 grains of powder. I ran from my 80 click load, whatever the 78 or 80 click load to start with, and I ran up out of the node. I ran all the way up, didn't wreck any brass, but I ran up to hot, hot, hot. I would say I went up, I was at around 32, if memory serves that I was at around 3250, I ran it up to about 3350, and it just spread like a monkey. The only thing that stayed consistent was I drew an angle through these groups, and these are kind of, in my mind, that it seems to be throwing funky. So, here's where I am right now. I ripped it completely down to nothing. The barrel is in the lathe right now. I've got it turned to a lighter than Hunter profile. I turned it clear down to well below the minimums. Very crooked barrel, by the way, as I was turning the outside. But that aside, doesn't matter to me. Turn the barrel down to make it legal. Cut it down to 23 inches, which is quite long for an HBR gun, but I'm going to try it anyway. And timed it. Come to find out, it's about, well, in my opinion, running a reading up into the barrel and gordying the barrel in, I found it to have about 22 thou lope. And it was not, it wasn't, the low point of the barrel occurred somewhere, let me think here. I would say the curve went like this, because when I mapped out the low point of the barrel, the letters were on top. So, I haven't decided yet if I'm going to set a low or high 14 twist. I'm going to time it with just probably, I don't know, 5 or 6 degrees, 8 degrees off of vertical. But all these things I'm going to do, I cut the barrel down already, I recrowned it already, I put it all in the lathe, and I recut the chamber to match the curvature of the barrel. I timed it, or I found the timing, and I'm going to time it. I built a bunch of sleeves because Bush Lambert sent me a bunch of inch 5 stainless 416R. So I ran in and I burned a hole 1.067 through them, cleaned them all up, cut a bunch of little discs that I can now put on. They'll act and look a little bit like a recoil lug. It's what the Kelbley lugs that you see that I've cut the lug off of. I use this not for a spacer, but for an abutment ring to make it big enough to abut against this action. So that inch 5 rebar, that inch 5 416 that Butch sent me is going to be bigger than this action. So I can put it on, glue it down, and bring it up to a full abutment surface. You'll notice that I mentioned, oh man, I've been holding it down here. I mentioned how I had this all roughed up and degreased on both ends and epoxied down. That was all true. I had to rip off the whole scope assembly and have to re-rough it, re-glue it, redo all of that, which is fine. to get this fixed back down. On the bottom side of this action, I'm going to turn it over. I'm just going to turn this down. Those groups are stupid and they're hard to look at anyway. They're terrible. So I'm going to have to make this action longer because I had it sized for the non-Ichabod chamber, which is quite a bit shorter. Now that I'm going to use these Ichabods, I'm going to have to cut this back because I have to be able to get one of these cartridges into the magazine. So I've got to mill this slot bigger. Got to bring it all the way back to where I'm worried about. So I'm worried about weakening it. So I'll probably go put a shelf here and here and put a couple quarter 28 pull down screws on either side of this. So that hopefully with this pull down, I haven't been using this pull down screw, by the way. At this point I've been held just here and here. This is the beginning of my experiment. But those groups up there are such total crap, I have no hope in them. So I'm not even going to continue. My plan was to do 2 screws, shoot it, then do the 3rd screw, shoot it. I just skipped all of them. In the end it wants to be a 100 gun anyway. So forget about all that. The action is torn down. When I come back, I'm going to have a barrel with a ring on it that measures 1'350", an abutting ring or an abutting surface. And I'm going to be able to tighten this thing down for real. Because I don't know if it's a loose barrel, I don't know if it's out of time, I don't know if no, I don't suck as bad as those groups, so I do know that part. The hair trigger that's in it's got a glitch in it. But I'm just whining now. So I figured I'm going to, because everything's going to stop for a while, and my brain is still in gear as to what I'm doing, I figured, you know what? One of the things I mentioned in my videos that I need to do, and I haven't, is that I need to measure the grains of water in this thing. And I am going to do that right now. I took the cover off the scale about 10 minutes ago. And it's been acclimating here. Well, as long as I don't blow wind at it. Whoosh! Look at that. I do this sometimes just to, it's kind of like the fact that, I call it exercising a scope. I think it's the thing that I do about holding at one aiming point and then shooting all over the target is good for the scope in my opinion. But let's get to this. The way I do this, right, wrong, or indifferent, is I take a fired case, I set it on the scale, and I tear it out. Now that we're teared out, I've never done it with this irrigation bucket before, but I think it should work good. I traditionally use I've used eyeglass droppers. I've used pipettes, and I can see from right here that I have screwed up massively with this case. This case holds 53 grains of water. So, it's not a legal HBR case. Even as disappointed as I am, I'm kind of glad that I did this, because my actual HBR case got a shorter neck. I'll knock a little of this out, bring it down to more where the neck is going to be, because the neck on the new iteration of this case is only half as long. So I've taken some of the water out. It's well above half yet. 49. Ooh, I don't know that we're going to get down to 45. There we're clear down below the neck, or to the base of the neck. Let's see where this comes out at. How tall can it be? Oops. Gonna be close, my people. This is gonna be close. 45.7 grains of water. Let's try it in another one. If I can get it to pour with that wax in there. Now this time, and hopefully, I don't know that anybody is ever going to design a cartridge where they're concerned about this, but just to give you the idea, this is how it's done. Well, not like that, because I keep running over. Okay, I should be doing this with droplets of water from a little thing. And I'm wasting time now. But I just wanted to show, taring is spelled T-A-R-I-N-G. And it's zeroing the scale. These electronic scales are handy because they'll zero anywhere. So they were at 43.2. I can look inside here and see I'm still up in the neck, but I don't know exactly how far up. I think the argument can be made that it can be legal. But, oddly enough, back when I designed this thing, I was using Winchester 308 cases, and I'm reasonably sure I wasn't that far off. So these cases might just be higher capacity, but whatever the deal is, I'm kind of glad I did this, because if I set this up legally and bring it to a match, I am going to be shut down, because it's not a legal bench rest cartridge. We're still going to go through and see if we can make that old barrel shoot. Spending all this time and money on something that may well be a complete waste. But that's neither here nor there. At least it gave me a chance to put together a little episode about checking the capacity, the water capacity of cases for whatever reason. You'll see as you get deeply into reloading that there's a lot of times when it's hooves to do that, and this is a way to do it that is quite handy. When you've got a scale that, number one, is quite accurate. This is a Denver Instruments MXX123, been out of production for years. The other thing is that it must be able to take progressive weights. I can go da-da-da-da-da-da. A lot of your scales want to zero out and they don't want to progress. This scale has served me really well. Very progressive. Zeros nicely as long as I keep the temperature and the humidity in the room consistent. There must be a grain stuck in here. A kernel I should... Oh, there's water up there. Come on, baby. Go back down to 0. I'll put you back under here and you'll zero back out. Just as I start talking about humidity, it goes wiki-whack on me. So, there's that. I'm going to go blow these cases out. Let them dry out, and we'll catch you on the next one.